Hi, I'm Natalie,
I'm Candice.
And I'm Danny.
and we are following Soulspiration. In today's episode, we explore our life purpose. What is it? How do we connect to it? And how do we define it? And perhaps even more crucially, does it even really exist? Enjoy.
Good morning, ladies. How's everybody doing today?
Very well. How are you?
Good.
Doing
So nice to
good.
see you.
Thank you. Are we starting with a card?
Yes, please, Natalie.
Okay, so the card for today is the unknown. And it says, when I find myself at a crossroads where something old has come to an end and the new is yet to be formed, I am gentle and patient with myself. As I release the old, I trust that the universe is creating the space for the new to enter my life in its own perfect timing. I keep my heart open and embrace the mystery, knowing I can't hurry this process. Sometimes when I don't know when, don't know how, don't quite know what or with whom, something magical happens. I open myself to the alchemy of my soul's growth. I enter a change portal in my soul's journey that calls me to bow to a design and intelligence infinitely greater than my own. Living in this place of don't know calls for courage, patience, curiosity, and trust. I reach out for support from those that love me. I open my heart to the loving guidance of the divine.
Wow.
So I love that card.
It's beautiful. It has an affirmation at the bottom which says, I bow to the infinite intelligence of the cosmos and my next steps are revealed.
Aha.
Yay.
I love
So I
that.
love it. And today we're talking about life purpose and, what of that is designed for us and how we find it and how we live it and how we connect with it. I know a lot of people talk about trying to find, what's my purpose in life, and that's something that people begin to kind of seek at a certain stage. So it's really like my question is like, how do we live our purpose? So that's what I thought we could talk about today.
I love that topic.
Me too.
Yeah, so I have a spiritual mentor who I work with who is absolutely amazing, and I can remember watching a live that she did once where she talked about soul purpose, and she said that really the question isn't like, what is my purpose? It really should be like, how can I feel meaningful in my expression of my purpose? Because your purpose is inherently part of you. And so it's not so much about seeking it like from external places, but potentially it's something that you hold within and you just need to awaken to it, or you just need to kind of follow the steps, which I think is a really interesting concept, because I think most of the time when people think soul purpose, like my life purpose, what am I here for? You're kind of like looking externally for kind of signs of validation, which obviously you may see signs of validation, but really it's something that you hold within. And if that's the case, you potentially can't be separated from it. So in the sense of, you might sometimes feel like you're going off path. If it's really in you, like, is that even possible? So I don't know if that sparks any thoughts for either of you.
Yes. Yes, it does.
10 different thoughts.
Would you like to elaborate on it?
So it's a bit of a different spin than maybe the way I've heard it said before. So there's that version of it where your purpose is inside of you, which essentially means to me there is no purpose. And not that there's no purpose to life, but there's no specific purpose or thing or path that you're supposed to take. You're just supposed to be you, like your authentic version of yourself. So that's the way that I kind of interpreted what you were saying. And then there's, very similar to that your your purpose or your path in life is never wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're seeking a specific life or job or occupation that I'm trying I'm trying to make all the thoughts like come together and form words and they're not cooperating. So if you're seeking that and you're seeking it in exactly what you said, something external, that even if you go off in a different direction, you're still on the right path because it's part of your path and purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's how I interpret my story. So my side of it is that no matter, because it's part of you, that whatever direction you go in, you're not going off path because it's within you. And so the whatever direction you go in, that direction is gonna teach you something that will bring you back round. So if you veer off in a direction that potentially isn't as aligned as it should be, it will either way, because it's still part of you, teach you what you need to be taught to bring you back onto the path. If there is even one path or purpose, maybe there's a multitude, so maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe if you go down there, it's just gonna go to a different. That's blowing my mind right now. Now there's too many freaking paths.
Right. So is our purpose then already determined, or are we determining it ourselves? And so you're saying we determine it ourselves. If it's already inside of us, whether we know it or not, then who put it there? Did we put it there?
Oh my gosh, my mind is like blown.
Right. Okay. So without going too far down there, I do love the idea that you touched on, and both, that you can't possibly be off your purpose, because whatever is coming up now is for you and is to be healed, to be learned, to be absorbed, to be like the rabbit trail is the thing, right? Like we know it's not the destination, it is in the journey. And kind of the older I get and the more I do this stuff, I really do, it does strengthen my belief that it is all for us, it is all on purpose, it is all for our benefit, and that we can use every little thing that happens along that path. So I do love that, and I do find a lot of comfort in that for the journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the journey thing, it's so true, because it's we've talked about this even with this podcast, like what is the destination? Is it like happiness? But really, it's, I think we watched a video which was talking about happiness isn't an end thing, it's a process. And so maybe purpose isn't this end thing that you're trying to reach, it's the process, it's the journey that you go on which gets you there. And you're absolutely right, because like all the things that in my life I could have, could be perceived as negative, or something that I wish I hadn't done, or wish hadn't have happened to me, or all of those things. Like now, with every single one of them, I can see what was in it for me. I can see the benefit in that for me. So like there's actually weirdly like an amount of gratitude that exists for some of those things, because actually like I wouldn't be here doing this, like I wouldn't be doing like lots of different things. So I think that is really helpful when you're thinking about purpose, and rather than trying to attach some meaning to some end goal that you define your purpose to be. Maybe your purpose is to do the things that fill you up the most, that make you feel meaningful. Like that's how you can most embody your purpose, surely, is do the things that really fill you up and make you feel aligned and in flow and all those good things.
So in that video that we had watched, It was a video on YouTube by Kerwin Ray, and I mean, we can post that in the blog post when this goes up. But so he was saying that the purpose is not found by seeking it. The purpose is found in following the inspiration, and one step at a time, it reveals itself to you. And I feel like that does sit well with everything that we've already said, because it's kind of like taking the way that I think people typically see purpose, and I know that I always did, as this thing. Like it has to fit in a box. My life purpose is to get clean water in developing countries. Like it needs to fit in that box. Whereas no, maybe that doesn't work. Maybe at one point I feel passionate about that, and so I start doing something related to that, say volunteering with an organization, and then that leads me to the next thing, which could be, I don't know, traveling to another country to build a well. And when I get there, I realize that what I need to be doing is be a teacher in that other country. And so, you know, it's each step of the way, if you're following the inspiration and you're following the passion that's within you, it sort of presents itself and morphs over time. And I almost kind of think that at this stage anyway, I certainly haven't always thought this, but that purpose is more about being of service. So if you're being of service and you're helping to, I don't want to say like raise the vibration of the planet, because that sounds so like so overdone. But if you're helping to promote love and healing in the world, then you're already serving your purpose. And it doesn't matter if you are grooming dogs and bringing some happiness to those dogs to then share the happiness with their families, which then, you know, the chain goes on. Or if you are building schools in underdeveloped countries, or, you know, it doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be a thing. It's the process and the journey, which you both already said, but just kind of reiterating that.
I love that. And I think sometimes transformational people, like I know there's a certain one that I'm thinking of, and I've heard more than one person say it, like, do you know your purpose? Because if you don't, you're just wasting your time. You need to know your purpose, right? And I think I might have even heard Oprah say it, but oh my gosh, you know, like Oprah on a pedestal. But it is kind of one of those things that, like, there's so many books, you know, find your purpose, and so many things. I think it gets sometimes it gets kind of glamorized, put on a pedestal, especially we will relate purpose with our job or with our, as entrepreneurs especially, I think a lot of them do. But I love more the way that we're talking about it here, which is like, you know, what is the purpose of a tree? Growth, you know, oxygen, community, contribution, unity with everything else and with all of nature, you know, and what is our purpose? And that's kind of what I think, like, the broad umbrella is evolution, growth, following intuition, doing things that call to us, that are inside of us, that when we spot it outside of us, we're like, yes, like that's really calling me forward. Like that excitement that we get, that's not like, okay, I'm pretty good at this and I can make a decent living and I'm gonna do this, versus and then someone came into the school and they said, this is what, here I go making it about a career, but it's just the easy analogy. And they said they did this, and I was like, you can get paid for that? And it just blows your mind, you know. those things that call us forward, I feel like are as close to purpose as I've ever felt or had a clear idea on. That I know it's just part of my purpose if it's just calling to me. And it might not call to everybody, but it calls to me. It just calls out, and like I can't not do it because it feels so good and because it's so fulfilling and so joyful and those kind of things.
I think that's really interesting because, like, the one thing, having come on here to talk about life purpose, like the biggest thing that's kind of hitting me is like the definition of it. Like, what even is it? So, like, Candice, you were very much like, oh, well, my like role is to do what? Is it your role, like, to take water to third world countries or to be a teacher in that country or whatever? And like, I wonder, like, this whole purpose thing, you're saying, you know, lots of people say you need to know your purpose. But then, like, is the purpose thing just another framework we in our humanness try and use to, like, rationalize life? Like, everything that's happening to us, where we're going, why we're even existing. Like, is purpose something that we're just trying to, like, cling on to and be like, oh, this is like my safety thing because this is my purpose? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it actually even something? That's where my brain goes. Like, I'm just like blowing up, like, what the hell is this thing? Does it even bloody matter? So there's that side of it. And then the other thing is I have, you know, and even just the fact that we describe it as the job, it's like, is that what really, like, life is about? Like, we automatically, like, both of you have done it and even I've done it, like, we automatically go to it's serving the people and it's and getting paid and, you know, all of those things. And is that really our purpose? And
as you were talking right now, and I just want to, like, throw this in before we, like, move on. As you were talking and asking those questions, the question that came to me was, okay, so if X, Y, and Z that you just said, does it even exist? Does life purpose even exist, or is it something that we've made up completely?
For safety. Yeah. Interesting. I did a program with somebody. It's an amazing thing if you get the opportunity to work with it. It's a lady called Alexis Pierce, and she runs like a soul purpose program, and she helps you discover or awaken or open your eyes to your soul purpose. And the way that she defines soul purpose is on a spectrum. And so, like, for me, my soul purpose spectrum is like trust to fear. So it's like the things that you will go through in life and experience. So for me, I go through, like, needing a lot of trust or having a lot of trust, and then having to go through the fear to get to the next level of trust. That's something that happens, like, with almost everything that I go through in my life. I have this fear to trust paradigm that I live in. So for other people, it might be worthy, not worthy, you know, like all of those different things. So we all have, like, a different area of that. So she defines it as that, and it's not putting something on, you know, the item, the job, the framework. It's literally more of a feeling place, and knowing that, like, you'd think, well, how is that helpful? How is that helpful to know that your like little paradigm is trust to fear? Well, for me, it really is, because it helps me embrace the fear. It helps me embrace the shadow side of me, the light side of me with the trust, the shadow side of me with the fear, and actually own that fear and try not to shun it, because understanding that it's inherently part of who I am, as in it's necessary in order to allow me to get to have the light and trust. So you have to appreciate both sides of things. And I know that was also actually mentioned in that video, which is like seeing the good and the bad in every situation. And until you can see the good and bad in every situation, you don't really see that situation. So yeah, I don't know if that brings up anything.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. I think without that perspective, Natalie, that you just hit upon, like, to be able to view a situation and say there's good and bad in it, and every single situation, to be able to do that. And sometimes it's only in retrospect that we can have that perspective. But if we can at least, and I think it's more and more and more powerful the closer to the moment it's happening, to be able to have that perspective is so powerful for us as human beings. And I think what you're touching upon is one of the primary foundational elements to, can you change your life? Can you transform? Can you go from a person who reacts to what they're given and lives out from right here to a person who gets to create what they want in their life and be the person who they've designed and decided that they want to be, when it might not be the most natural, habitual, regular choice, that the automatic choice that just comes to them, but can they change? And I feel like that you're just touching on is just one of those. And I don't want to take us down a rabbit trail, but I just want to emphasize, I think, how important what you just said is, and how vital that is to be able to see things with the good and the bad. And it's essential in life purpose too, because like you said, even if you know kind of what general direction you're going in, you go on a little side trail and you have a challenge or something, but you learn valuable piece of information, or you meet someone who's just key to your journey, or you find some nugget along the way. And if we can't see all that good with the bad, then we just miss so many of those things that help us take us down the path on this journey toward evolution and purpose and all of that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's in thinking about that, so that's the exact reason why this was so helpful for me is knowing these two things, because in every situation that comes up, I can see what of me is the reacting with fear. I can see that, and I would have previously like either tried to shun it or like made this big whole thing about it. It's so damn scary. But now I'm just like, okay, I know that this is just this little thing I want to try and go through that will allow me to trust, will allow me to get back to the light side. And so that helps you shift things. So whether love to fear, worthy, not worthy, like all of those things are actually the definition of purpose. I don't know, maybe it's just another framework, but it's a framework that's helpful, and maybe, the job, maybe that is something that is necessary to help us evolve, to help us move forward, to help us transform, is to attach this meaning to things. It doesn't change, like, is it real? Who knows now? I don't know.
Well, and I think too, like as we're talking, that there might even be a little bit of a difference between purpose versus calling. So a calling is something that you do or be or experience, and the soul's purpose or the life's purpose is more about our soul's evolution and what we're here to learn and grow and the lessons that we're meant to learn in this lifetime.
Yeah, that's very true. I like that, because that was something that was confusing me as we talk about. So there's calling, which is a new one that I hadn't kind of thought about, but it was also like purpose and path, so like, what's the difference there? Because if purpose isn't a destination, well, I guess path isn't either, because path's a journey.
I feel like all of these, sorry?
Are they interchangeable? Like, do you think those two things are the same, purpose and path?
I think probably every person has to define it for themselves.
Yeah.
But the way that I am working through this in my mind as we're talking is that it's three things that people typically speak about and use the words interchangeably. Mm-hmm. But to me, from my perspective in this moment, and I'm sure it might change in the future because it's always changing, but more that the path is kind of the journey and the experience. The calling is the doing, the passion in life, and then the purpose about the lessons and the evolution. That's the way that I'm seeing it right now.
I'm just going to really let that sink in. And I think one of the things that we have touched upon that's really powerful for me is I believe that I kind of at the same time believe that our purpose is something that we kind of, and no matter what we're calling it, but kind of what we're here to be, experience, and do, let's just, in the broader context, whatever it is we call these all three words or whatever, is that part of it is just life experience and following breadcrumbs and following inspiration, and everything lead us toward it. So I really feel like it is a path and not a destination. And I also, there's part of it, right, that is that your purpose is what you say it is. And the reason is because it's like some things are kind of unknowable, but what matters then, if it is unknowable, is having a framework to look at it that is beneficial for us and our own development, right? So not particularly knowing if in the huge scheme of things, is this right or not? Like Natalie was saying, your bridge from fear to trust and back and forth gives you a framework to understand. And so I feel like that is more important than even the big answers. Is what framework do I believe? Do I trust? What lens can I look through to help me see things and the benefit, the good and the bad in them, and who that help bring me forward? That is like the real question. And I think the most powerful one. And this other stuff is so good to talk about. And I love like the delineation and where is that really, and the calling is what we do is fascinating. But and what we will really walk away with is, okay, what works for us? How can we look at it in a way that helps our life, helps us be, happier and more fulfilled in life?
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me personally, because my entire life I have placed such a huge emphasis and value on finding my purpose. I used to see psychics. I used to go to classes. I did, mediumship and intuition classes. And every week that was my focus. What is my purpose? What am I here to do? I was certified in hypnosis. And then I went on to ultra depth hypnosis, and I was certified in Reiki, and, training for business and do what is my purpose? What am I meant to do? But if I take purpose out of what I'm doing here, it takes the pressure off. So for me personally, if I think about it like a calling, what am I called to do? I don't feel that huge weight on my shoulders that there's something to figure out and I need to get this right because I'm here for a reason, and I think, probably for most people listening to this, we're going to attract a certain kind of people. And I would say that most of those people would have that pull or that feeling, I'm here for a reason. I know I'm meant for more. I don't know what it is, or maybe you do, but there's that deep pull, down in your soul that there's something bigger. And so I'm sure that it's a feeling that a lot of people can relate to. But like I said, if I think about it for myself in the terms of what am I called to do, then I can do that and not feel locked into it, not feel like there's only one answer, not feel like there's a destination. That right now I might be called to do medical intuition, and next week I might be called to, I don't even know.
Do the fandango.
Yeah, exactly. And that's okay, because for me, calling is something that I'm being pulled towards, and thinking about life purpose is like so huge and so like narrow. You know what I mean? Like there's only one answer, and if I don't get it right, I'm wasting this lifetime, and I'm gonna have to come back and do it again if I don't get it right. Like I used to say those things to myself, and I put so much pressure on myself to find my purpose, and I spent a lot of money too. And at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't even exist. Like
I did not think that was where this podcast was going to go. Where it was like, does life purpose even exist? This is why I love these conversations, because like it forces you to actually like look at it for what it actually is and try and make sense of it. Because, you know, I was the same. I feel like with life purpose, there's kind of like a responsibility that I need, you know, I'm responsible for this. I should be doing this. So I need to do everything I can to find it. But actually, what if you just go to the calling and you go with what you're called to do? And if that's all that fills you up, then you're living your purpose. You're living the highest, best version of yourself, because you're only allowing in the things that bring about that person in you. So very interesting. And I wonder how many listeners are actually with us with Does Life Purpose Exist, or whether everyone's like, are you crazy?
I love that. I just think it, and it is, and all of that, and we're just changing the framework on how we look at it and what we call it, and how all those stories we made up in our heads, or that culturally, or in our kind of environment, in our kind of transformational, metaphysical, new age kind of culture, we cultivate this pressure and the whole service thing and the whole, all of it. And it's really all smoke and mirrors, but it really is, I think at the end of the day, we're trying to explain the unexplainable. We're trying to grasp infinity with a finite mind and understanding. So all we can do is kind of point to it and kind of try to find a way to look at it that takes the pressure off and makes it a little more freaking fun to try to follow the calling, and what if the purpose is to follow the calling, follow the fun, follow the inspiration, right?
Exactly. And that just brings me back to the card that we got, which said, you know, the last thing is, I open myself to the alchemy of my soul's growth. I enter a change portal in my soul's journey, which I love rather than anything else, that calls me to bow to a design and intelligence infinitely greater than my own, which tells me that, you know, it's not your responsibility to find and identify this thing. It's your responsibility to just go with what calls to you, which is what you're being divinely guided to follow.
Mic drop.
Well, shall we close there, ladies?
Wow.
Is there anything else?
I'm just really sort of like trying to process you reading that again, because as you read that again, it had a completely different meaning than when you read it the first time. And yeah, my mind's blown a little bit there.
Yeah, mine too. It's like a couple of mic drops and like, oh, are we done for today? Around and around and around.
I don't know if we're done. I'm still taking that in.
Like the deer in the headlights, like, sure, yeah, that's
Hilarious.
And how awesome for, you know, the podcast who doesn't claim to have all the answers anyway. We're like, we just gave you a whole bunch more questions.
See you next week.
Chew on that one. Yeah. I think that's really good, though.
I think it's perfect.
Following your calling is the purpose. Yep.
It's all just made up anyway. Like nothing means anything except for the meaning that we give it. So let's give it a good meaning. Like let's just decide.
Yeah, we get to define it. No one else is going to tell us, are they?
Right.
Not anymore, anyway. They used to tell me.
Yeah.
Not now.
Y'all gone.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Well, that was fantastic, girls.
That was.
Thank you. All right. So, for the people listening, you can see the videos and the past recordings on our website at followingsoulspiration.com. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, which are both Following Soulspiration.
Yay! Come see us.
All right. Bye, girls.
Bye.